Hey everybody, welcome to the garden. Today I'm going to go through and give you a little bit of a tour so you can see a little bit about what's blooming here right now and what's growing, and I'll give some tips and advice along the way about various different plants that are in here, as well as some updates about how things are growing, things that have worked, things that haven't worked. So stay tuned, and if you have any questions about anything in this video, drop something in the comments and I'll try to respond to that as quickly as I can. I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. Let's go ahead and get into the garden and take a look. This is Walker's Low Catmint. It's a plant I plant everywhere, all around, very easy to propagate, and the bees love it. It's just so easy to grow, and it's very well behaved. It really doesn't spread. I've just had it in these little clumps for years, and so had it at our previous house, and I'm always going to have it just because we like it so much. And of course, you always have to plant your catmint next to a cat statue. So there you go. And that's an Itea. I planted those, and you can see it's just beginning to start putting out some flowers on it. It's got some great fall color to it, so if you're looking for a native plant with fall color, Itea or Virginia Sweetspire is a really excellent plant to plant. It is a native plant. Down below it is a Husker's Red Penstemon, and you can see here it's got this really dark foliage, which is really cool. It sends up some stalks that get these little bell flowers that are white. So it's a good hummingbird type plant. Hummingbirds generally prefer things that are more in the red spectrum, but they will come to this just fine. And this penstemon can be easily divided. You can see it's got these large clumps that are right here, and you can just dig into it and separate those out and then move them to where you want them to go. One thing to note here is this Itea has started to spread, so I'll probably need to go into the dirt and dig out that and separate it and turn it into a new plant. Always good when the garden decides to provide free plants for you. A little further down than that, I've got combination of purple type stuff. So we got this Caradonna Salvia right here. Salvia is an excellent plant. I love it in every garden. Caradonna is especially cool because it's got these really dark purple stalks underneath the flowers, and they just look amazing. Now over here is something that I kind of regret but kind of don't regret. This is a verbena, and I bought it and put it in last year, and it spread all over the place right there, but it looks amazing. But I'm probably going to have to cull it because it's going everywhere, so that should be a fun chore to do. But over here we got some sedums. Those are Autumn Joy Sedums. You can propagate those for a variety of ways, whether you do it from just pulling a stalk and rooting it in water. You can pull the individual leaves off and root them. That works well. You can just divide them if you want to. So they are a very easy plant to grow, and they look great in the fall. In front of that, they faded now, but these were two types of phloxes. That one looks a little bit white now, but it was more of a purple color. And this one here was also a different shade of purple. So they definitely have changed. Phlox's prime period was a few weeks ago. I saved a bunch of seed around the year 2013 and kept it in the refrigerator, and this is the result of it, this Dianthus right here. And I believe it was saved from a Fire Witch Dianthus, so I don't know if that breeds true to type, but it did produce a really nice looking flowering plant. The early irises have kind of faded at this point, and this one is still blooming. It was one of our first ones to start, but it's a beautiful one right here. It's called Goldkiss, and it's white, and you can see it's got a little bit of gold in it right here. A few weeks from now, it will be a good time to start dividing them, probably in June, and then we'll separate these out. You can see this one is getting a little overtaken by my native honeysuckle, which unfortunately has got an aphid problem. So check that out right here. Aphids typically you can treat with a mixture of like soapy water or an insecticidal soap. A strong spray from the hose works too, but I think probably with this, I'm not even going to worry too much about it, and I'll trim it back. I do need to transplant these into another location. One question that popped up in a Viburnum propagation video was about the timing, when I like to propagate them. And it's coming soon, probably in another week or so, these will be just ready to propagate. But you notice right here, the tips are still a little bit pliable. They're better when they're much more stiff, for that first year growth. And that's the other part of that question. I always try to take from the first year growth at whatever time period it is. So if it's in the springtime, you're going to have more of a greenwood type cutting, and in the fall it'll be fresh, but it'll be more of a hardwood type or a semi-ripe type cutting. And so at this time of year though, it'll be a little bit sturdier than this when I'm going to want to take those cuttings. So we're going a little behind the scenes over here to some plants that I didn't really have a home for yet, and so it's kind of like a quasi little nursery here, just with a few little things. But they're mostly plants that I purchased at the end of a season, discount plants, and I just didn't have a spot for it, but it was a good deal, and so I grabbed it. So I've got this grapevine right here that you can see is really growing everywhere. I'll probably take a bunch of cuttings from it, and it is starting to produce some grapes, so that's really cool. So maybe we'll get something off of it. I probably won't actually move the potted plant until maybe fall, if at all, this year. But I don't like it in this location, so it's going to have to go somewhere. And this is a knockout rose right there, which is looking really nice. The foliage is coming out good. It is starting to get a little bit of damage. The roses do have some pest issues, sawfly and some other things. So they're going to have to probably treat this with something on the foliage in order to prevent all this kind of little spotted speckled damage. This pot right here is one of those native honeysuckles, and what I did is I weaved the branch of the honeysuckle through the bottom of this pot, and I just let it sit there. So it's kind of like an air layering type cutting. Filled it up with soil, and then once it had grown enough roots in here, I just clipped it off the bottom. So now it's its own plant. That's one really easy way, especially with vining plants, whether it be honeysuckle, grapevine, all kinds of different things can be easily propagated through just doing a bit of a layering technique. And this crepe myrtle I finally moved. It was in our front garden. We decided we wanted a different style of crepe myrtle. I did a video on that one, so I'll show you a link on that particular crepe myrtle. But this one's a dark foliage crepe myrtle, and it actually came with two in the pot. So I've actually got two of those I can put somewhere, but I haven't decided where they need to go. And over here I've got another rose that's not looking quite as good as the other one. But next to it, I've got this ginkgo, and this is one of those ginkgos I grew from seed. It's looking really healthy. I planted one last fall. I've got an idea where this one needs to go, so I probably need to go ahead and get it planted in the ground. What's really interesting is a lot of times they start off with these leaves that look like kind of a butterfly. They're dissected in the middle. And if you think about the actual name, the botanical name of a ginkgo, it's Ginko Biloba. So you've got the biloba part, which means two lobes. So they start off a lot like this, and then eventually they go to the more usual shape of the fan kind of leaf that they have. So I step back a little bit so you can see the front garden. I need to get in there and do some more weeding and mulching. I haven't done any mulching as of yet. I've done some weeding, but just to kind of give you a big view of everything. You can see there's a lot of green right now because a lot of stuff has not started doing the flowering part. We've got a few irises. Up here in the front, I've got a Culinary Sage that I have in a pot. You can see it's blooming. Hummingbirds are loving that right now. But it does really well in a pot, especially when you don't need to do anything special with the soil, because it tends to be more of an arid type climate plant, so it can dry out a little bit, and it doesn't really need a whole lot of nutrition in the soil area. Beside it, it's not blooming yet, but this yarrow will be blooming a bright yellow color very, very soon. And it's in and among a group of irises. There's actually 3 different kinds of irises right here, and all of them have kind of stopped blooming. Well, not all of them. This one has got a pretty nice bloom there. And then over here is one called Solar Fire, which looks really good. I need to separate it out because it's kind of getting overtaken. And then this was a different one. It was blooming a couple days ago, but doesn't have any blooms currently on it. Next to that is this Spirea. I believe it's called Magic Carpet. We moved into our other house back in 2007, and this is one plant that popped up. I actually tried to let it die. I didn't want to keep on growing it, and it came back. And so then I transplanted it and moved it, and it thrived. And you can see here, it looks really nice right now. It's got a lot of flowers coming. It's got a little bit of a reddish tint to the leaves here. And otherwise it looks a little bit of a lime green color, but it looks really good. And I have not noticed it spreading or causing any difficulties in the garden at all. It seems to be pretty well behaved as far as they go. Here's the clump of Rudbeckia that I took some divisions from a while back. You can see it's looking fine, no problems with it. It doesn't look like a perfect circle anymore because you can see where the clump is missing, but that will fill in eventually. And back behind it, we've got a little bit of a Dutch iris growing. Planted some of those from bulbs in the fall. And we've got our coneflowers too that are starting to come up. I forget which ones these are, but they will flower probably closer to June, late May or June. So I'm planning to do a whole video on this particular plant again. This is the crepe myrtle we planted last year, and you'll note that the whole top part of it has died off and it's regrowing from the base. So I'll probably do a video on just how to train that back and get it into a good condition so that you can have a really nice looking tree form crepe myrtle. I really don't love it when they do the crepe murder thing. You know, murder's just not a nice thing to do. So this one here, I'm going to train it to have probably 3 to 5 small branches that are going to train as leaders to grow up and have a really nice looking trunk. Down below we've got a native prairie drop seed. Some of these are looking great, like that one right there. Some are looking a little questionable, like this one here. You just never know, and they're so close together, the conditions are almost identical. So it's hard to say exactly what's going on with them. Now back behind it, I have really big yellow iris. These are huge. Nice and bright, lots of color. And here's a disappointment. I'm really sad about this. These are the blue arrow junipers that I planted, and both of them have gotten some sort of a fungal disease. So I'm going to try to treat the soil and see if I can bring them back, but it's not looking good. And now is about the right time to start producing cuttings from Russian sage. This one is Little Spire Russian sage. And you can see here that the stems are really in a good shape. They're not floppy or anything. It's a great time to start doing that. I said before I'm a big fan of the purples in the garden, but purple and blue works really well together if you're looking for a good combination. Back here we have cornflower or bachelor's buttons, and in the front we've got another Caradonna Salvia, and together they look really good. The one thing you got to watch out for with the cornflower bachelor's buttons plants is they do spread a lot, because I've got some and I've got some over there and I've got some right there. So you got to keep up with the seed, you got to do your deadheading if you don't want them to spread, or you just weed them out. And there's my favorite silvery foliage plant, Powis Castle Artemisia. Very easy to grow. It actually is resistant to deer, highly resistant to deer. I've never had one graze upon that ever. Now over here to its side, this is a grape smelling fragrant iris. And beside it, you've got another type of iris here. I really wish I knew all the names of these guys. And then down below, I do know this one is called Caesar's Brother, or at least that's what I was told it was. I got it at the Middle Tennessee plant swap many years ago. And it is just a beautiful iris. So I did a recent video on this bed. This is my holding bed. It's mostly got irises and daylilies in it right now, but here's a look at a couple of the irises that are blooming today. They're looking really great. This is a new one today, which is really kind of cool looking. I don't know the name of it. And then this one is also really neat. Here's another crepe myrtle tree that I need to go ahead and do some pruning on. This one came from our other house. There's a whole lot of material on here for me to take some cuttings from. So we'll probably go ahead and do that. I forget the exact color that this one is, but it came from either a cutting or a root division at the other house. So this area on the other side of the holding bed is a bit of our small orchard. I've got 3 apple trees planted here. I've got a cherry tree that I want to put in before too long, just a smaller bush style cherry tree. And we'll probably just fill this up with a few of the smaller type of orchard things. It gives we've got a little separation between where the driveway is and the vegetable garden behind me. I'm still working on the fence. I've got most of the holes dug and concrete poured on 3 sides of the fence with the post brackets put in, so I've got one more side to get done before I can actually put the fence around there. And it's slow going. I work full time, so it's one of those things where this has to fit in where I can fit it in. But so far the deer have not been a problem this year. I'm hoping that stays at least as long, stays true at least as long as it takes me to get the fence up. And this is our Gala apple tree. And if you're wondering if it actually rooted, because I did a video on hardwood cuttings for this, it was a bit of an experiment. They have not rooted to this point. And at this stage, I don't really think they're going to. So what I'm gonna try doing is some cuttings that are from the softwood branches here, probably in a couple of weeks. This is still a little on the floppy side, a little bit too early to do, but I think there's going to be some good material. We didn't have any blooms on these, so I don't really think they are going to bloom this year, so I won't be cutting off any kind of fruit potential that we might have. So we're in the vegetable garden for a few updates. Right here we've got a bunch of Yukon Gold potatoes. They are looking great. This is a verbena that I saved from last year that I need to go ahead and put back in the ground again. And over here is a pineapple that just happened to grow out of the compost. So I thought I'd pot it and see what happens. I've just started planting tomatoes. I've got a few of them that I put in about 2 weeks ago because we had a really warm spell and it didn't look like any cold weather was coming. Then it got a little colder, so I waited to put the others out, but I'm beginning to go ahead and gradually get all my tomatoes planted. That is an Amish paste tomato right there in this metal raised bed. So the tomatoes are looking real good. They're acclimating to the outdoors here on the front porch. You can see they look nice and healthy. I've got them in the core pot so I can plant them directly in the ground. I've got a soil mixture in there that's a combination of worm castings, some core, some compost, and a little bit of bark shavings for some drainage. And then over here I've got a whole bunch of basil. I've got several different kinds. I believe there's 7 kinds of basil here. And then some chamomile so we can make some really good chamomile tea. And then over there you can see I'm working on another experiment, and more on that another time. So I added 2 new trees to this spot right here, and the idea is that these trees will eventually kind of grow together to create an entrance to this pathway over here. These are both redbud trees. They're just a beautiful flowering native tree here in Tennessee, Cerces canadensis. And if you don't have a redbud, definitely recommend you having them. They're kind of a smaller size tree for the most part. They've got these beautiful heart-shaped leaves. They can have some really amazing colors. They've got some cultivars that are just spectacular. We used to have a forest pansy redbud, and it was really amazing until it got warm and then the leaves turned to green. It was a kind of a dark purple color. And then there's another type I saw the other day, flamethrower, and I saw it from across the nursery. I was like, I really would love to get that. But then it was almost $300 and I was like, okay, I don't love it that much yet. So we'll see. But anyway, this pathway right here leads back into a little bit more of our wild area. So we're cutting pathways through the wild spots and we're leaving a whole bunch of milkweed here. Our monarch population is really growing in this area. Let me go show you a few things with that. So these are common milkweed plants and they're all over the place in the garden. And when you start to see signs where it's been eaten, there's a good chance that you have a monarch somewhere. And there was one on here earlier today. I'm checking to find out where it has gone to. It's a pretty good, oh, here he is. Or she, I don't know. But look at that beautiful thing. That one is probably 2 inches long and looks amazing. Very healthy looking caterpillar. So we're getting a lot of those around here because we've been mowing around the native plants that are supporting them. So we're letting them grow, and we actually have 4 of them that are inside in a little butterfly net thing that we're growing. The kids really love seeing them change from the caterpillar stage all the way up until they emerge as a butterfly from the chrysalis. So in this milkweed, if you look really, really closely down the very middle of it, where the tips are, you'll see some tiny caterpillars in there. And those are very, very young caterpillars, probably just been out a couple of days, but you can see that they are working on getting bigger. And so we're seeing those all over the place. It's amazing how many caterpillars we are seeing now. We saved 6 to 8 or so of them last year, and I think they've located our site now as a place where they want to come hang out. And so now we're seeing a lot of monarchs already this year. While I love native plants, I like having a mix of native and non-native, nothing invasive in the garden. I've got plenty of invasive to get rid of. So one of the plants that I've been adding some of this year is actually some Japanese maples. This one here, I did a little video on it not too long ago, just the coral bark Japanese maple, and it's doing really well. I did have one complication with the planting of it that I do want to mention right now. Because there is so much foliage on this plant and the root ball is a little bit smaller, the wind, as you can see, is catching the wind pretty good right now. It's actually pulling on the root ball and kind of wiggling it around. So I did something different. I don't love staking plants just because a lot of times they can get dependent on it. I want them to move in the flow of the wind a little bit so they can build a nice strong trunk. So what I did instead is I weighted down the root ball. So here's the rocks that I put down, and they are just kind of on the edge of the root ball where there's enough room for water and moisture to go down in here. Any rain that falls is going to fall on these rocks and just kind of split and kind of fill in the ground just fine, not a problem. But what it does is it allows that root ball to kind of stay in place without rocking too much and give those roots a chance to kind of get to the sides of the hole and start finding their footing and kind of grabbing on and holding tight. I do need to cut off some of these branches, but I did not want to do that for a while. I'd like to probably keep from here down clear, and but I'll probably wait till fall before I start doing that, or at least later this summer, give it a chance to get established first. And so this bed has got another Japanese maple favorite of mine, a Germain's Gyration Japanese maple. It's kind of got the thread leaf leaves on it. It's a greener type of Japanese maple with some beautiful fall color. And what's really neat is how the branches like to twist and turn around. They kind of undulate. It's really cool. But also in the bed, I've got some heuchera, I've got hellebore, brandywine viburnum, which is just starting to flower, which this is a native plant. So I've kind of got a mixture of natives and non-natives, and just to kind of change things up and look really cool. So that's what I'm trying for anyway. Here are a few native plants that I added that I thought would be really good to have. This is a hydrangea arborescens, and over here are two viburnums. They are rusty blackhaw viburnums. And then this is another arrowwood viburnum. I've got a few of those already, and this came from our previous house. I believe Morton is the variety name on that, but these will all go in somewhere, and I think they would make excellent replacements for privet, which we have everywhere, and I'm working on cutting out as I can, and then I'll start replacing them with things like viburnums and hydrangeas and stuff that is actually better for the environment. And just so you know, I'm shooting this video in the morning where this bed gets full sun in the morning, but in the afternoon it is protected by shade. So this is my current hosta garden, which I don't have a lot of room for hostas. I like to keep them close to the house because of the deer and rabbit issues that we have. Now, a lot of times hostas have other issues, slugs, snails, and things like that. And probably one of the best things you can do is just put a little saucer of beer nearby so that the slugs go in, and that pretty much kills them off. They drown themselves in the beer. I guess they're drowning themselves in their own sorrows or something. I don't really know. But for whatever reason, it works really well for getting rid of them. I don't tend to have a lot of problems with them because I use pine needles for mulch in a lot of my hosta areas. I find that they don't really like climbing across the pine needles as well as they do, say, a regular mulch or just in the regular soil. And this is a really awesome hosta if you ever find it, called Sum and Substance. And I'll have to look up the names of most of these hostas. I don't remember them all. I know I've got a guacamole in there, Paul's Glory, Crosso Regal. Those are all in here somewhere. But also we've got a lot of heucheras. Like that one is Southern Comfort right there. Palace Purple. I think that one was one I grew from seed. I believe that one is also from seed here. And then this one I believe is a Georgia Peach or something like that. So you can see they're doing quite well with morning sun and afternoon shade. And that Japanese maple is another threadleaf one that we brought from the other house, and it's just doing excellent in this location. A lot of Japanese maples actually like having a bit more sunshine than you would expect, and I think this one is really enjoying it. And so last year I put up this little thing, and it just used 4x4s that I had left over from another project. It was our previous garden fence of the other house, and they still had concrete in them. This was just kind of a concept to kind of get the idea of putting an arbor up right here. So these are going to get removed and completely replaced. But back over here is something I just added, and it's a very basic, common, probably the most common Japanese maple you'll find, the bloodgood Japanese maple, but they are outstanding in this area. The fall color is amazing, the leaves always look great, and they can tolerate a full sun location. So I'm using it as the focal point in this garden. Previously I had a witch hazel right here, and so I dug it back out and I moved it over here along another pathway, so it's got its own special place too. But it just wasn't as much of an eye catcher as, say, a Japanese maple like this one is. So again, I'm going with that mix of native and non-native because I think it can be really special when you kind of blend the two together. And if you start the Japanese maple and look over to the left, there's my American beautyberry that is starting to leaf back out, and it's growing new stalks from its base and looking really good. And over here in these little spots, we've got two different types of native plum trees, not cherry trees. One is a Chickasaw plum and the other is just American plum. So I wanted to have a couple of native fruit trees over here, which follows this pathway and goes down that direction into our wooded area, and eventually that pathway brings you to our pawpaw trees. So that's quite a lot for this video here. I'll stop this right next to our fruiting pear tree that we've got in this area. And I'm just mixing things up a bit. I want to have nice pathways you can walk down and just enjoy what is there, whether it be a fruit tree, a native tree, or an exotic tree. I always avoid invasive plants as much as I possibly can. Sometimes you don't know when you plant it, and then you end up with something that spreads like that verbena. And while it's beautiful, it's probably going to cause me a problem later on. So I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. If this video was helpful to you in some way, please hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here on Growing the Home Garden. Thanks for watching.